Good Friday afternoon. Thanks for joining us on KARE 11 News Now. I'm Lou Raguse. Today marks the first day that many federal workers are missing a full paycheck. That's because the government shutdown is entering day 24 without a clear end in sight after the Senate failed to pass the spending bill on October 1st. Since then, almost 1.5 million federal workers have either been furloughed or are working without pay. Many of them were seen lining up at a food bank event this week in Washington, D.C. And here in Minnesota, tens of thousands of people may lose food aid benefits. That's after the state said SNAP benefits, along with Minnesota Family Investment Program food benefits, will not be issued next month unless the shutdown ends. But with the shutdown now lasting more than 3 weeks, more families are seeking food aid assistance. The Open Door Food Pantry in Eagan already made changes in the past 6 months to increase its reach by 30%. Now they're preparing to serve even more Dakota County residents.
I will tell you that in the last few months, especially since the shutdown has occurred and grocery prices have continued to rise, we've seen 30 to 40 new families find us every week. And in the past 2 weeks, we've felt a lot more anxiety and concern from folks that are very worried about the impact of all the things around them.
The government shutdown is also putting pressure on a heating assistance program here in Minnesota, with many low-income families experiencing delayed payments. Yesterday in Richfield, the Minnesota Department of Commerce said 75,000 families have already applied for heating assistance. The state is processing those applications so people can get their money when the government reopens.
The thing that feels scary right now is that without those dollars available, we don't have the resources to then support families on those bills. And we don't know when we will start being able to support families.
Under the cold weather rule, utilities cannot shut off heat to families during the winter as long as they're signed up for a payment plan.
Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
What you see and hear in this video is part of a TV ad that pushed President Donald Trump to terminate all trade negotiations with Canada. Trump announced his decision yesterday after the Canadian province of Ontario ran the ad protesting the U.S. tariffs. It features a part of a 1987 speech by former U.S. President Ronald Reagan, where he's heard saying that high tariffs hurt the U.S. economy. But President Trump is calling the ad fake, and the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation says it misrepresented Reagan's remarks on tariffs. The foundation also alleges that his speech was edited without their permission. While the ad includes excerpts from the original speech, it does alter the order in which Reagan made the remarks. Ahead of his trip to Asia, Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney spoke out in response to Trump's decision, saying that both countries have previously made good progress in trade talks, and Canada remains open to negotiations.
And we stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions, because it will be for the benefit of workers in the United States, workers in Canada, and families in both of our countries.
Today, President Trump is also departing for his first trip to Asia this term, with stops in Malaysia, Japan, and South Korea. Amidst tariff wars, the president is expected to hold trade talks in hopes of improving some of these relationships. Last month, the cost of living rose at the fastest pace since the start of the year. Consumer prices rose by 0.3% in September. That's according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. Those prices pushed the annual rate of inflation from 2.9% to 3%, the highest it's been since January. And the biggest driver behind the increase was gas prices, which surged up by 4.2%. In the last 24 hours, we learned that Target plans to let go of 1,000 employees and eliminate another 800 positions. But the company did not specify who might be impacted, leaving workers in the dark until next Tuesday. Target even asked their employees to work from home rather than come to the office in downtown Minneapolis next week. The decision comes after Target experienced flat or declining sales in 9 out of the last 11 quarters. In a statement to employees, the soon-to-be Chief Operating Officer Michael Fidelki said, quote, "The truth is, the complexity we have created over time has been holding us back." Today, the man at the center of a legal dispute over a homeless encampment in South Minneapolis opened what he calls a hygiene and outreach hub for people to use. It's at 28th and Lake, the same area where Hamoudi Sabri had a homeless encampment with various health concerns that the city finally shut down after a mass shooting over drug dealing territory that left a woman dead. This is video of that encampment shortly after it was shut down. Sabri says leadership in Minneapolis is not doing enough for its homeless population. Sabri's new setup has temporary hygiene stations, and he says it's a hub where homeless people can connect with outreach workers and other support systems.
I think it's about time to change. System is not working, not just for the justice, everything is not working. I don't know. I don't know what to say, but people have a brain, and I think it's going to be very crowded in here.
A judge barred Sabri from hosting homeless encampments on his property after the deadly shooting. And today the city says Sabri has failed to get any permits to use his property to help unhoused people. Meantime, the city of Minneapolis says it's still reaching out to people daily to get them the resources they need. Happening this afternoon, Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem is in Minneapolis. She's scheduled to hold a press conference where she'll talk about ICE operations and the Trump administration's immigration enforcement in the Twin Cities. During her visit, some groups are planning to hold protests. Stunning charges today involving the former CEO of the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce. He's accused of embezzling more than $200,000 from the organization. Raya Katene has the latest on these developments.
Listing his appearances in Twin Cities business magazines and journals, Jonathan Weinhagen describes himself on LinkedIn as a transformational executive leader. But an indictment filed on Wednesday by the Department of Justice accuses him of embezzling more than $200,000 from the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce while working as its CEO. Weinhagen is also accused of stealing $30,000 in reward money meant to help solve crimes involving children.
I was in shock.
Including the shooting death of KG Wilson's 6-year-old granddaughter, whose killer has not been caught. The chamber contributed that money to Crime Stoppers, but a year later, court documents say Weinhagen asked them to give the money back by mailing the check to his home address.
Some greedy, heartless monster took $30,000 out of a fund of some innocent children's justice reward money. That is just unheard of.
The indictment accuses Weinhagen of creating a fake consulting company called Synergy Partners and an alias by the name of James Sullivan. Between 2019 and 2024, he's accused of funneling $100,000 from the chamber to his fake company and using that money for personal expenses. Court documents also say Weinhagen opened a $125,000 line of credit in the chamber's name and transferred the money to his fake company for the same purpose. We tried reaching Weinhagen at his home and by calling, but haven't gotten a response. When the chamber requested information about payments to the fake company, court documents say Weinhagen covered his tracks by sending fake emails saying the company no longer existed and the owner died. The documents say Weinhagen created a fake obituary for the company owner saying James Sullivan died of pancreatic cancer.
I couldn't do this to you or your family. Why? And how could you do it to ours? Now, not only do we want justice for our children, we want justice for this individual that stole this money out of this fund.
And Jonathan Weinhagen is also accused of taking donations from the chamber's business members to repay the money he allegedly stole. In a statement, the chamber says it's cooperating with the DOJ and has, quote, been working diligently to make process and governance changes to help rebuild and strengthen the organization. New details on an overnight fire in Minneapolis that left 4 people without a home. It happened near 33rd Avenue in North Penn just before 11 last night. Minneapolis Fire says heavy smoke and fire was coming from a first-floor apartment, and an adult man was found unconscious inside and pulled to safety. However, after they got him out, he vanished and was not able to be located or treated for injury. The fire and water damage destroyed the apartments. The cause of the fire is under investigation. This afternoon, the search continues for the thieves who stole $102 million worth of crown jewels from the Louvre. Now regarded as the heist of the century, the robbery took less than 8 minutes, leaving French authorities puzzled how this breach in security might have happened. NBC's Ralph Sanchez reports from Paris.
Detectives continue to scour DNA evidence recovered from here at the Louvre, but at this point, at least based on what they are saying publicly, it does not look like they have made any major breakthrough. And so the gang pulled off what many people are describing as the heist of the century, stealing $102 million worth of France's crown jewels on Sunday, are still very much on the run. And there are mounting questions about the security lapses here at the world's busiest museum. We spoke to the French lawmaker who is leading the parliamentary investigation into this heist. He says it's clear that there was underinvestment in security cameras and that there should have been a clearer police contingency plan to respond to a crisis like this. He worries that at this point, these precious items may have already been chopped up, the thieves looking to sell them on as individual stones. Now, experts tell us that it's very possible this gang is prepared to sit on these treasures potentially for years until the heat passes. And so this is likely a sophisticated operation prepared to play the long game. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Paris.
And stick with us. More news and weather is coming up after the break.